Well, hello and welcome back to CLAldridge Art Adventures in Coloring for part 3 of our blending colors um, uh, with a 12 set. I've chosen the Derwent Inktense pan travel set. Unlike watercolors, Inktense is actually ink pigment as opposed to watercolor pigment. And my name is Christine Aldridge, and as I said, this is part 3 of this series. So if you would like to see how we got this far, I do encourage you to watch parts 1 and 2. And if you like what you see, please do like and subscribe to my channel. You can also visit me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I am a coloring book artist. I do draw coloring books for a living. This is my one of my books. It is the second one that I published way back in, I believe, 2016. Yep, that's a 2016 drawing. And I've chosen a tropical color palette, summer tropical colors, and am slowly but surely working my way through blending all the colors that I need with just the 12 colors that we have, none of which are actually showing here. Now, while we were away between parts 1 and 2, I did say that I was going to bring the turquoise color out into this area, and I've also, in addition to the pink in this border, I went all in and did all of the little surrounding frame in the pink as well. Also, you may notice that there are some very odd looking shiny things there. I am playing with the Zier glitter pins, and let me get those down. I wanted to see what those would look like. Now these are acrylic, they're water-based, they are translucent, they are a glitter paint marker made by Zier. They do come in two different kinds. There is the fine, extra fine point, which is what I have here, and then there's also a fine point, which is a slightly more rounded nib. These ones, and actually I think I was using the lighter pink, these have a tip, I don't know if you can actually see that, or see if maybe shows up better against white. See how that tip is a little sharper than, say, the rounded tip of just like a super tip or something like that. And I'm liking it. I did try this one. I did with the darker pink, and I didn't like it as well. Although the glitter effect is the same. When you hold it up this way, you can see that this one is slightly darker. I like the addition of that. In addition, I did frame the outside of just this flower. The jury remains out whether or not I will continue to do that with all of the flowers, but I probably will. And I might even outline this one using the greens. I wanted to show you the swatches of these. They are very pretty. Now this is how those Zier glitter pens, this is the base color of them, now on this plain paper. So I'm using them actually over a color, you know, when I put them on something. So they not only have the translucent color that carries the glitter, but they also have to show through the color underneath. And I've got a bunch of swatch spaces over here for when I want to see what an orange looks like over a particular color, I have a little place here in my swatch book to be able to look at that. But for right now, we're only working with these colors in our 12 set. Now, so on to the next things, which are of course this flower and you know, all of the component parts. Now I've pretty much decided that this outer frame or this background is going to be this bright blue. I'm going to water it down slightly so that it is closer to the lighter side of this blue. The other option is to use the ultramarine. Now what I like about the ultramarine, I like the color of it. I don't like that this one dries a little more chalky looking than this. And I haven't quite figured out what that's about because here on my palette, it's pretty much the same way. Now this is a, you know, this is an Inktense, so it could just be the way that it dries on plastic, that it looks that way. Because it doesn't look that way on the paper. But I may use this blue. I don't know. We'll have to see when we get there. Once again, it's an adventure and we're in the middle of it. So, if you have been following this series and have watched the first two parts, then yay. If this is your first time, I'm not crazy, I promise. This, by the way, I can't show you. This is from my second book, which looks like this on the cover. This is my 40 Fan Favorites, which is my 10th book, and it has 5 drawings from each of my first 8 books, and there's the covers of all of those books right there. And this little one is from Flowers and Flyers, and as are a lot of these. That's from Flowers and Flyers, so is that one. That one's from Flowers of Wonder. That's from Fabulous Flower Garden. That's from Flowers and Flyers, and that is from my very first book, which was this one, which was Flowers and Dreams. So flowers are a big theme in all of my work. And of course, oh, I know what I wanted to show you. I'm going to back off just a little bit because I did want to show you 2 updates, and I almost forgot. And the first one is that I finally finished this. Now, some of you may have seen this on Instagram already. This was last week I started or continued I've been working with limited color palettes. So just trying to choose 3 complementary colors. In this case, I ended up choosing a 4th color to serve as a background color. But the 3 color families that I was working with were the magentas, or the burgundies, the blues, and the golds. And this is from my mandalas book, The Best of CLAldridge Mandalas. And what I did is I just went through all 8 of my books, picked out all of the mandalas, and put 48 of them together in one book for you. And these are the favorite ones that folks have done. And it gave me a chance to use a very special coloring on the cover because the lady who colored this is no longer with us. And this happens to be the only thing of mine that she ever colored. So I was absolutely thrilled to be able to use it on the cover of my book. And by the way, that was Jody Ann Savage who colored that. And we miss her every day in the coloring world. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is an update on this, which is this is something that I've been coloring on it as we go, or, just as time allows. I don't usually color other people's work on, on my regular shows because, because I want you to buy my art. But I do, of course, admire and color other people's work. This is Rhapsody in the Forest by Kanoko Ugusa, and she is I believe, either a Japanese or a Korean. Igusa is not a Chinese name, so Kanoko Igusa, I believe, is Korean, and it's just a beautiful book, and this is the one that I'm coloring, and I'm doing it with the Koh-i-Noors, and the Koh-i-Noor tritones for a lot of it, and I think these are magic pencils. For those who've never seen them, they are they literally are tritones. Each pencil has little tiny chips of the three colors that are shown at the end of each pencil, and they are just simply gorgeous. Well, I can just show you. I mean, this is basically a swatch of what they can do. I use the Ember, and this is just one pencil, everybody. One pencil, and just straight coloring. And it does things like this. And there's a little more effort that I put into these. I mixed up two of the pencils. I used the forest and the rainforest and the regular forest. And, I love that I was able to do the same thing here to get a shadow for the brick wall. The wisteria I'm able to do in two different colors of wisteria. I used them for the roses. I just love yellow roses with red tips, so they're perfect for that. And of course I'm using them for all the grasses, all the greens, and the stonework. And this is very much a work in progress. And then of course the wood, which is a different pencil with some lighter tones in it, called Tiger. But like the little concrete planter or stone planter. Anyway, I love those pencils. So I'll just keep showing you this as I make more substantial progress on it. But those tritones are amazing. I will put a link to those down below for those of you who'd like to see it. And there are links to all of these things as well. To this book in particular, both at, there's a flip-through video link, Amazon link, a book depository link, and a Etsy shop where you can buy it as a PDF. Okay, so now we were talking about, get to the point, Christine. We were talking about these flowers. I am going to do these yellow. I think I am going to straight color them, but I'm going to use a little palette to just to be able to mix up a bigger amount. When you take the pigment directly off the block, it is very strong and it is very thick. So you want to, at least I do, water it down a bit. Because you can always add more color. And I want these to be a strong color. But you can always make them brighter, but you can't take it back. That's what I'm trying to say. Once you get it bright, it's hard to take it back. So, and our tropical palette is, so I'm thinking in terms of fruits. So we've got berries, you know, the berry pinks, and the kiwi and limes. We've got blueberries. We've got lemon yellows. And it's a fiesta. It's summer. I'm going to put the oranges. I'm going to tie the oranges to this outside by pulling them to the second layer here, and then I'm going to use the mango in the inside layer there. And once again, I'm going to pull the kiwi out by using it in the center. So I'm color balancing. And making sure that the colors that I use are not necessarily used everywhere, but that everything ties together. So I probably should take that off the pretty drawing so that you can actually see the drawing. Although it's so much easier to have it in my hand like that. So how is everybody? It is Saturday. It is working on mid-afternoon here in Virginia. It's 1:15. I've been up since the crack of dawn, but I have been busily doing other things. So, and this is the first time that I've had a chance to sit down with this project and the camera running all day. Alrighty, and I haven't even had a chance to go to any streams or anything. I know I keep missing Sammy. She's working on the in Nocturnes, and I believe she is doing Skin Tones, which is a wonderful series for people who, and I'm glad that it's there. I don't color an awful lot of people, so I haven't been paying, like I watched all of the hair series that she did, but I haven't seen the very many of the skin tones. But I know they're there, so when I'm ready to teach myself to color skin, I will be able to refer back to that. And let's see here. Has anything good been happening? I haven't watched the news at all. There could be a hurricane brewing or something. I should probably watch the news. It's just that there's, with a 24-hour news cycle, the news just gets boring. It's like the same talking heads saying the same thing over and over and over again, except that the stories always change just slightly throughout the day. And I don't know, they get desaturated, I guess. My sister and I, my sister was a producer for She has since passed away, but she was a producer for ABC News. She and I used to have arguments over, was it news or was it gossip? Because I remember when news was news. It took a half hour for the reporter on TV to report the news a couple of times a day, usually morning and evening. And that was all you needed, because all they did was report the news. They didn't tell you what you were supposed to think about it. And now so much of our television news seems to be people wanting to tell us what we should think about things. And maybe it's just me, but I kind of like to listen to all the facts and then form my own opinion. So I hope that we have not abdicated that responsibility off to newscasters, that they're going to tell us what we should think about stuff. But, maybe we have. I think newscasting these days is, kind of, it's getting pretty close to the rumor mill. These guys, they can say uncorroborated, unsubstantiated, unwhatever, we haven't been able to confirm this, or, anything all they want. But once you say stuff, it is out there in the universe. And people are going to say, well, so-and-so said such and such. And when you start examining the actual facts, you realize that it bears virtually no relationship to what actually happened. Oh, that always makes me laugh. Sorry. I know I know. It's like, where did that come from, Christine? Okay, so now I am over here on my little palette, and I'm going after a little bit of that kind of reddy orange color that we had made up, that we used originally here. I still have a little of that left on my palette, and I think it's going to be enough to do these little guys. So let me do that. That way I'm not, it's never wasted when you leave it on your palette, but it's always nice when it's already mixed. And you can go back to it. If you want to know how to mix that color, which is not in this set anywhere, then you got to go back and watch the previous parts of this video. And it shows, I think this was the some of the red and some of the mango, a little yellow. And we'll just go from there. Any thoughts that you guys might have on this series? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Not the stuff you want to watch? I loved that the most of the comments on part 1 were, oh, the Firebird was great. I was showing a picture that we had done on stream on Sunday, and I'm like, okay, yay, I'm glad you liked the Firebird, but what'd you think of the video? Am I off on the wrong track is what I want to find out. Or, is color palettes with a 12 set of Inktense an okay subject? Something that that will be a useful thing, hopefully, to people, mixing colors. I just want everybody to think outside the, outside the full set syndrome. That's that, because I don't know about you guys, but there are so many products out there that, heck, it's hard to find room to store them all. You want to try them. You want to try, and I encourage people to try the smaller sets. And then I, also try to encourage people that, the smaller sets are very, very useful, even if they don't have all the colors that the bigger sets do. You can always custom mix a lot of colors. And I do it just by experimenting. I mean, I don't know any more about color theory or, what works with what. I know what I like, and I can follow a photograph. If I'm doing like a painting a bird or something like that, I can follow the colors that are in the photograph and generally mix those. I do know that if you mix two complementary colors, like if you mix orange and blue are actually complementary, which means that they're opposite each other on the color wheel. But if you mix them together, they're going to give you either brown, in this particular case, or gray. Which is what two complementary colors do mixed together, is they give you the corresponding brown or gray that you would like shade with. Which is one of the reasons why here's a hint, if you're working in an area and you've got 4 or 5 different colors going on, and you mix all those colors together, they will give you the perfect shading gray for whatever that object is. All right, now we're going to go straight to the mango. Pardon me for just a second. Okay, that's better. Sorry about that. I had to take a little pause. Okay, so I'm going to use this over here on this palette. I probably don't need that much of this, since I'm only going to be doing those four little sections, but I love this mango orange. Isn't it a pretty color? And I don't know if you can actually see. It's probably a little hard to appreciate at that angle. On the other hand, let's see, yeah. What other... Ooh. Okay. Trying to think if I've seen anything or... Oh, I was talking about the news, wasn't I? Yeah. Never want to get me started on that subject. I went back and watched the episode where Dee Dee colored Faithful Mess's portrait. That I did do. Or at least I watched part of it. Oh, I know what I've been meaning to say. And of course it's part 3. But my videos are always best watched at 1.5 speed. Not only do you get a 60-minute video in 40 minutes, but I have a tendency to talk slow, and if I'm trying to talk and think at the same time, I am usually even slower than I normally speak. And, and, and I find myself a lot less frustrating to listen to at 1.5. Because I do listen back to all of my videos once they're posted, um, just to, I'm monitoring quality control and ultimately, checking to make sure that all the little pieces that I put into a edit are actually all showing up like they're supposed to. Okay. So now we've got those two, and I need to decide whether or not I'm going to add anything to those yellow flowers or not. I'm thinking that I may leave them alone, although I'm not positive about that. And so while I give that a little thought, let me take a very quick break, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have made some choices. The first one is that I'm going to go back to this dark green that I was using earlier, also to be able to use some of it up. And I'm going to do these so that they match the curlicues that I use down here. And so that will pull that darker shade up into this outer layer. And by outer layer, I mean this outer ring of colors that we're working on. Still trying to keep color balance as I'm going along. And for those of you who may be wondering, yes, I am drawing. I have started, I'm trying to find my dragon mojo, but in the meantime, I have my symmetry mojo back. And so I'm working on a new drawing with some birds. The dragons are coming, but they're not, they need to have some birds. They need to have some birds in front of them. Okay, and then I'm going to go do this one. I sort of have to draw what my, what my brain is in the mood to draw as far as creativity goes. Then I can start forcing it back into drawing what I needed to draw as soon as I give it some indulgence as to what it wants to draw. Because if artists only drew what they felt like drawing, they wouldn't, they'd never finish anything. I approach drawing the same way that I do coloring, in that I like to have a vision of what the finished product is going to look like. And so that's why I have a tendency to color top down. And actually so that it's completed from the top down, and I've got an idea of what all my colors are going to be and how they're going to work together. This, I started out wondering if I was actually going to be able to pull this off, and I am now at a point with it where I know that I am, it's working, At least it's working for me. This is a color palette that I find very pleasing to the eye. And hopefully you do too. And so I'm going to just add a little bit darker right around this area. Okay. It's going to save a little bit of that. So now I'm going to clean out my brush. And I'm going to go back to my kiwi green. Now, you'll notice that I'm not mixing further colors, primarily because I now know what colors I want, and most of them are already mixed on my palette. So that's why I haven't had to mix any colors. But I am going to go back to this kiwi, which ultimately is what we used in there. One of the other things that I did change is, you remember maybe you don't remember, but if you watched part 2, I had done the inside of these orange flowers. I had done that little center thing, brown, soft brown. You'll notice that I did change those to green. And I did that by simply taking a bit of this kiwi. Those bubbles are so funny. If I just leave them alone, they'll pop on their own. I'm going to go ahead and put that right in the middle of the page. And I am going to color the whole thing, but I'm going to do just exactly what I did with that big flower. I'm going to be adding some of the dark on the outside edges. There it went. But I love this lime green. It is such a lovely tropical color. So I thought I'd go ahead and use it straight, just like I did in the, ultimately in the center of that big center flower. And it creates that lovely glow. And I'm also going to do this center one here with it. So let me finish these up, finish the ones on the other side, and I will be right back with this. And we can look and see how it turned out. Okay, and that is what it looks like with the greens done. Now, moving along fairly quickly and zooming you all the way down, and hopefully we are in focus and you can see that. I am going to take just the tiniest bit of this reddish color that we made up and mix it, whoops, with a little bit of what's left of our orangish color over here. And just a tad of water. And brush that all the way off, because I'm going to use it. Well, let's see. I'm going to try I'm going to try going straight for the red and see if that works. I just want to use it as a little shadow underneath these two layers of petals to just further define them a little bit. Not much, just a, just a little layer. Just to give it a little more visual interest. Sometimes it's the little details that make you smile, Bring out your creativity. Don't want them to be too red. So just adding a little bit of that orangey on top. Moving down to these ones. Hopefully we're still on camera. Let's see if I can bring it all in so you can see it all. And I'm really just touching, just very, very lightly underneath and just with the very tip of the brush. And the water is pooling just a little bit. And so I want to be very careful that I don't let it, let it run into the lighter mango. Or really even too far, like see how this is bled a little bit out into the orange? So that's because I had to brush it a little bit too much of added at a 45-degree angle instead of at a 90-degree angle, or a 20-degree angle, I should say. Yeah. That's exactly the look that I was going for. Okay. So there is that little tiny detail added in. And now I'm going to go back to that dark green, which has just proved so useful. I keep going right back to it. And I'm going to add it in, I was originally going to add it into the tips of these, but I'm thinking now that I'm going to go at the bases, just because that's where it would actually be darker. Just not adding any more water to the brush or any more color to the brush, but sort of brushing it out a little bit to sort of blend it in to the lighter color. Oops. Grabbing a little more color. Pour over here. And you just sort of work it until you get it where you want it. And I'm going to work it out a little bit more. Being very careful because this paper is very saturated. So just, just touching the brush tip to it, being very gentle. Moving it out now just a tiny bit more. So that when it dries, that line won't be as jaggedy. And you can even go back in and add a little bit more of your kiwi at the same time and bring it back down so that it blends more smoothly. See how that blended more smoothly with the oops. Grab some more of that kiwi. Trying to work fairly quickly. So that it doesn't look quite so harsh. Now that is just super, super saturated. It's soaked, so I want to be very careful to not do any damage to that paper, so I'm just going to leave it alone. And do it on the other side. So hopefully there'll be another now that we know a little bit closer to what we're doing, the second side should be a little easier. So pull this out. Still with the darks. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the kiwi. Come back the other way. And washing out that harsh line, excuse me, while it's still very wet. And I do apologize for all the throat clearing, guys. You know how it goes. Although I confess that I have talked more this week just doing this little series of videos than I have in a long time. Okay. Yeah, all right, that one went a little easier. And so that is the effect of those. I'm going to do exactly the same thing to this one up here. Got way too much water on that brush. There we go. So now back to the kiwi. Wash it down the other direction. And it's a nice, smooth, dark blend. Well, it's probably a little hard to see that way. There we go. See how smooth that is? How pretty that transition is? Okay, I'm liking it. I am liking it. All right, I will do the other side, and we'll be right back. See you in just a minute. Okay, and voila. Those are all done, and I'm liking it. I am liking it. The more we go along, I am liking this color palette. Okay, next comes the outer side, and I have cleaned up a spot here in my palette, and we're going to mix up some of this bright blue, which is this one out here at the very edge. So we're going to grab a ton of that up because we have a large area to do with it. And then we are going to 4, 5, 6. We're going to water that down. 7, 8, 9, 10, until we get it. Let's check. Yep, that's the color right there. That is the one that I want. Okay, so now we'll start here. Since it's a straight color. Now this will be streaky, and I want it to be. Because I want it to give the impression that it's either sky or water. It doesn't matter which. And I'm sticking with the little brush because this is theoretically all you would have. This is just the little brush. Now I have filled this little brush, I don't know, probably 3 times since we started. Or since I started this, 4 times maybe. Because it doesn't hold very much water. So if you take this out, let's say you're traveling or you're doing this in the park, you probably are going to want to have a source to refill it. So whether or not that's your little bottled water or whatever, you can pour it in. I use one of these, which is a syringe to draw up some water from a pot here on my desk. I could take it into the bathroom and actually fill it from the tap. I haven't tried to fill one of these using a water bottle, so I imagine it would be messy, but you'd eventually get some in there. Okay, now it remains to be seen if that was a mistake. We're going to let that thoroughly dry, and because right now it is very wet, um, and, and see if I blew it at the very end or not. I'll be right back, keeping my little fingers crossed. That dries a little lighter than it went down. See you in a couple. Okay, well, now the blue is completely dry, and it did dry a little bit lighter than I thought it would, but I don't know about it. I did try a little experiment. I took a little of that same blue and I put a coat of the teal green, this one here, over the top of it, and created yet another color. See, so that is, whoops, sorry. Those two colors are quite different, and that is similar but just enough, and I think it brings it into being the darker match for the turquoises that I've already used. So I'm thinking that I might go ahead and do that and just make the whole, I mean, it isn't that I don't like the blue. I don't know. Okay, everybody, I quit dithering and I made choices and I finished it. Uh, what do you think? Um, uh, I did, in fact, use the layer of the washed out teal over this, and I like it much better. I like this blue much, much better. It now matches tonally with the other, because, you know, this is lighter slightly than this, and this one is slightly lighter than now the outside one. So, and then I just used the same pink, used that same orange, and then I used the yellow glitter Zier pen to do the, you know, glitter on the balls there. Let me get you down to where you can see the glittery parts. So I just went over each individual pearl with the glitter, and the same thing down here, and you can see that I went over each of the flowers. Now I did not go over the outlines of the outer flowers. I think that doing so would what my stepmother used to call gild the lily. So I just stuck with what was inside and zhuzhed it up just a little bit. I am very, very pleased with how this came out. The only colors that I used in the whole thing that I didn't have to mix were the straight yellow for the yellow flowers and the kiwi green inside. Otherwise, every other color that I used is a color blend of different colors in this palette, giving me all the different colors, all the different tones of oranges, greens, teals, and yellows, and golds that I used, and reds, pinks. So you really can use a 12 set to make as many colors as you need for a particular project. In this case, a tropical palette coloring of a fairy's dining table or a pretty design in one of my books. I do hope that you have gotten some value out of mixing colors and color blending, and that you will take a new look at your smaller sets and realize that if you can afford the large sets, go for it. If, like me, you are often on a limited budget and you need to get the most that you can out of your coloring supplies, then please consider the smaller sets and then learn to blend some colors with them, and you will be able to make whatever it is that you want. I'm liking it. I will be posting this to Instagram. I'm turning it away from the glare so that you can see the actual colors. Look for this on my IG post, and you'll be able to get up close and personal and see all the little lines and anything that you may have missed in the video. And I do hope that you've enjoyed this video and will join me for a live stream soon. I will be live streaming this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is 7 p.m. UK time and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I don't know what time it'll be in Australia, but or New Zealand, but I know what time it'll be. It'll be like 6 o'clock in the morning in New Zealand, I believe. Anyway, until we meet again on the next series, I do hope you enjoyed this one, and please color something pretty. Bye, everybody.